I love how you just are so excited to be together. But I have a question for you. How many, how many of you remember your dreams? That's pretty good. That, we all dream. You know that. But we don't all remember our dreams, or we don't remember them all. But in this class that we just had, it concluded last week, our dream class, and Christina taught us so many things about dreams, how to interpret them for ourselves, and also how to remember them. Well, I had a dream last week. The night before I had it, I read this story that took up about that much space in a newsletter. That's not very much. Very tiny story. But apparently it was something that I needed to read. And in my dream, that little tiny thing became this gigantic, big sign in black and white. It stood in front of me, and that's all I could see. So I knew that that was something I needed to pay attention to. And I had a pointer in my hand, big, long pointer, and I needed it because I had to read this story. This thing was about twice as high as me. And so I'm reading this story, and here's the way it went. There was a hungry traveler, and he found himself on a country road. He was so hungry, and when he noticed that there was a restaurant up ahead, he said, "That's for me." When he got closer to the restaurant, he noticed that the special of the day was enthusiastic stew. Oh, he thought, I wonder what that is. Well, who cares, because I'm so hungry I could eat any kind of stew. But as soon as he walked into that restaurant, even before he sat down, he asked the waitress, What do you mean by enthusiastic stew? What kind of stew is that? And she said, it's enthusiastic stew because we put all we've got into it. Oh, and then in my dream there was this small voice that said, tell them how good they are. Well, I was assuming that them was you. I'm to tell you how good you are at doing what? Making stew. Yes, making this enthusiastic stew. Because what we make here, what you have made here, is like nurturing soul food. And you have put into it everything you've got. You have made this center the success that it is. You should be proud. And then the voice seemed to say to me, but tell them to keep doing it. Keep making enthusiastic stew. You know, enthusiasm, that's quite a word. Because it means ardent zeal. Ardent zeal. And entheos means in God, in spirit, that gives us this divine energy, this inspiration to keep going forward, to keep doing what we're doing, all the goodness that we do in this world, to keep doing it. So Charles Fillmore, our co-founder, talked about enthusiasm. And he said, it is the impulse to go forward. It is the urge behind all things. And without this zeal and enthusiasm, there would be inertia and stagnation in the universe. Then he goes on to talk about the individual. He says an individual without zeal or enthusiasm is like an engine without steam, or an electric motor without the current. And so nothing gets done. It was someone else who said, indifferent people cannot create a different world. In other words, the implication seems to be that a lukewarm state of mind can't create much of anything. Certainly indifference can't. But you see, we aren't indifferent. And we aren't lukewarm. What I see here are people who are full of enthusiasm. And I find it so interesting that in this month, in which we celebrate the God-given gift of zeal, this is October, and that's what we do every October. Isn't it interesting that I had this dream? There are no coincidences. I was meant to tell you this. Well, because this is a God-given gift, we all have it. And we know that our job here is to transform ourselves and then to help transform the world. Oh, we can do that because we have this wonderful gift of zeal. And we can work with that every day of our lives. And we know that this is truly an individual thing. If we are going to change the world in any way, it has to start with us. And so we find then that there are people who say, because I've heard this, well, I don't know about this enthusiasm stuff. You know, you people in Unity seem to be so enthusiastic. You have this zest for living. And you seem to be so happy. Well, of course we're happy. That's unity. Our James Dillard Freeman, our poet laureate, who has made his transition now, he said, I'm so happy that unity is a happy place to be. But I have heard people say, but I don't think I can come on Sundays when I'm not feeling happy, when I'm not feeling enthusiastic, because I don't want to be around people who make me feel worse because you're so happy. But that's the thing, you don't feel worse. Please don't do that. Don't stay home. Because I guarantee that when you come, you will feel better when you leave than when you came in the door. And it takes the smallest of things to do that. Sometimes it's nothing more than a hug or a smile from somebody. It could be a little pat on the shoulder, an encouraging word. It can be the smallest of things, or a little bigger thing, like maybe a prayer from a chaplain. Never be afraid to ask. Never. Chaplains love to give you a prayer. It could be words from a song, words that you hear in the message, no matter who is standing up here. And it can change you in an instant. We've all had this experience, haven't we? You might remember the story about the woman who felt she was being chased by tigers. You heard this one? Yeah, well, it's a very good story. It's silly and it's good, so you'll hear that in a moment. She's being chased by tigers, and she comes to the edge of a cliff. Well, now what do? She looks over the edge, and she sees there is a vine. Oh, I'll crawl over the edge, and I'll hang on to the vine. And then she looks below. Whoop, there's more tigers below. And she is struggling to hang on to this vine when she looks up and there's a mouse that is gnawing away at the vine. And she thinks, oh, I'm in such trouble. But then out of the corner of her eye, she sees something red and bright. And she looks over and sees there is a clump of strawberries that has grown out of a crack in the rock. And for a moment, she looks again, tigers, mouse, and the strawberry. And she lets go very carefully with one hand, and she picks that strawberry and puts it in her mouth. And in that moment, she gives herself to the sweetness of life, and everything changes. Now, a silly story, yes, but we look at it metaphysically. And so that means the tigers. You ever had tigers in your life chasing you? Ever felt that way? Oh, come on, don't shake your head this way. I've had them. I can imagine you must have had them sometime in your life when you feel that life is overwhelming. There are too many things to do. And there's tigers everywhere. And they're going to devour you. And then all the little irritations of life, that mouse that just gnaws away. And all those little irritations get you down. You ever had a day like that? Oh, thank you. Yes, of course. All right, and you think, where am I going to land? It feels like I'm going to fall. And then something happens. There is some little thing that turns you around. It doesn't have to be much. It can be just some little thing that brings you back to a reminder of the sweetness of life. When I go out the door in the morning, the first thing I do, or maybe it's the last thing I do before I go out the door, I read the daily word. Because to me, those are the little strawberries of life. This last week seemed to be full of strawberries that reminded me how sweet life really is. See if I can remember a few of them. One was, I am the gatekeeper of my thoughts, so I let in only the life-affirming ones. How about going out the door with that? Sound good? Another one was, joy is bubbling up within me because I am filled with Spirit. I'll take that too. Another one, God is in me, for me, and with me. What could be better than that? And, let's see, one more. I choose this day. I make a decision to be my best possible self, and I am free to choose that. These are all little strawberries. The sweetness of life that is there for us, because we all need at times a new perspective. We all need a reminder that life is good. In our Prosperity Plus class, this was our fifth class now. And we're always reminded that life is good, but we have to do something to make it good. There are many things that we can do, and so we are given every week something. I invite you that when this class comes around again, and it's going to be a new class, take it. Because this is the third time I've taken it. And every time I learn something new for me that I can put into my life and make it better. So in this particular class last week, we had something given to us by Jack Boland, but of course it came through Mary Morrissey because she's giving the class on DVD, of course, but it feels like she's right there in the room with us. But from Jack Boland, he was the minister, unity minister from Warren, Michigan, who gave us the mastermind principles. And we use those principles here in the center. We use them in this prosperity class. But now this is something different than that Jack Boland gave to us. And he said, you have to use your 5 fingers because this is how you make enthusiastic stew. This is how you do your day. So if we use our 5 fingers, it's an easy way to remember how we're going to go into our day. And remember, one day at a time, right? Mm-hmm. So just for this day, but I would encourage us to use this every day. So let's start. Thumbs up. That's our attitude to start our day. But there are people who will say, well, what if I don't feel like it? My life really is a little bit more this way right now. Well, let's turn to Jesus and see what he had to say about that. I think he could answer that. In his statement, that is one of the most misunderstood It is one of the most unusual statements he ever made. And this is what it is. I came not to bring peace, but to bring a sword. What did he mean by that? I came not to bring peace. I didn't come to lull you into complacency. You see, if you want peace, you have to take it for yourself. But he didn't say that I came to give it to you, so that's all you need to do. I didn't come to lull you into complacency. I didn't come so that you could look at me and gaze at me adoringly. I didn't do that. Or that you could worship me. No, I didn't come for that. I came to bring you a sword. And a sword cuts away that complacency. It cuts away all those excuses of, I can't, because I don't feel like it. That's the poorest excuse I've ever heard. Because feelings can be changed. Jesus came to bring us a sword so that we are able to cut away all those I can'ts in our lives. And that we are able to cut away everything that is preventing us from growing. What makes us grow? Thumbs up. I can. Those are growing words. Jesus came with teachings that light a fire under you and me. It's as if he was saying, don't die until you live. You've got to live right now, in this day. Live this day with awareness, alertness, aliveness. Wake up. So chin up. Look up. Thumbs up. You know, life is too important to have anything but thumbs up. We're ready for the second finger. This is your pointer finger, and we're going to point our way down the day. But it isn't by anything that we do. This is the intention that we set for ourselves. What is your intention to be this day? What is it that you want to be? You want to be joy, you want to be love, you want to be peace, well, you can have it. That is your intention. That is how you are going to be in this day. And I think the Daily Word can help you with that. I invite you to read it every day, to set your intention. Point your way down the day. Now the third finger we can't hold up. And so Mary says, let us do this with it and make a little circle, because we are going to flip fear in the face. See, I tell you, you can remember these things so easily. Flip fear in the face. All right, so do you realize how many fears we have as human beings? A lot. And most of them are unreasonable. Fear is paralyzing. Fear is one of those things that weakens us in our bodies and our minds. So let me tell you about a fear. And I find it so interesting that Brian and Linda are sitting here today, because that's when I got to face my biggest fear, the fear of public speaking. The first time that I was going to speak in Toastmasters, I thought I was going to die. And my legs felt like wet noodles. And I thought, there's no way that I can even walk up to that lectern. But I'm going to. I have to. And so somehow I got up there, and when I opened my mouth to speak, nothing came out. I think I finally got some little squeaks out, and I finally said something. I have no idea what. And you know what they did? They all clapped for me. How wonderful that was, because I knew that I could come back and do it again and practice, 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 and I would get over that fear. Face your fear, and it tends to go away. It's so important that we do this. And so I have to thank Toastmasters for my ability to stand here and speak to you today. Face your fear and flip it in the face. Now, the fourth finger. March forth into this day with determination. See, I call this spiritual spunk. We all have it, but often we forget we have it. Well, march forth that way. And there are things in this life that we need to do, we need to take care of. I have quoted Terry Cole Whitaker before. It's appropriate, I do it again. She said, don't you dare die with all your stuff. You take care of your stuff before you leave here. Don't you dare leave it for someone else to take care of. Well, some of that stuff could be unforgiveness issues. Unforgiveness is one of the things that hardens our hearts. It's not good for us. It's not good for our mind, our body, or our spirit. And so we need to be about forgiveness because it frees us. We need to start going forth into the day with a clean heart. A clean heart. It says in the Bible, create in me a clean heart, O God, and renew a right spirit, your right spirit within me. That's the way I go forth into this day. And I'm so grateful that I can do that. At the end of the day, reflect on your day. And there may be some things you will see that you could have done better. Well, then resolve to do them better tomorrow. There's also this whole thing, this idea that how you resolve your day, the end of the day is how you begin your next day. And I find that so true. In this day, when you march forth, do something kind for somebody else. So I have to tell you something that, I'm not too good at looking at television or computers, and I do it when I have to, or when I have that bit of extra time to do it, I'll sit down and watch television. If Dal has it all prepared for me, we better have it recorded so I can get through the commercials and that sort of thing. So last night he said, come on, I want to show you something. And it was about kindness. And on the computer was a rebroadcast, part of it, from the Ellen DeGeneres program. So some of you may have seen it. Did you see it? It was so heart-touching. How this young woman, 22 years old, single mom, has a 15-month-old son, and she works as a bartender and waitress at Ruby Tuesdays in some part of the country. I didn't catch where, it doesn't matter. And so she, in her duties, in her work, had seen two women come in, soldiers. Women who had come from combat, and they had not been paid because of the government shutdown, and so they were carefully looking at the menu, what could they get with the money that they had. And she noticed that, and something in her heart said, I'm not going to cry. Something in her heart said, you have to pay for that, for their lunch. So she wrote a note to them, and she thanked them for being these soldiers who take care of all of us. And then she said, I want to buy your lunch. Well, they were just elated, and they took that note, put it on Facebook, and of course it went viral. Of course. So here she is now, sitting on the Ellen DeGeneres program, and right across from Ellen, and she said, I just don't know what to say or do. I mean, this is just mind-boggling to me. And Ellen said, well, the first thing we have to do is pay you back. She said, I want to pay you back for that $27.75 or whatever it was that you spent on these two soldiers, because I want a part in this too. So she gets this great big purse that she's got, and she digs around in there, and she comes up with this little bitty coin purse. And in there, she starts counting out the bills to Sarah. Oh, by the way, her name is Sarah, oh, my goodness, was it Hoydall, I think? Sarah Hoydall, okay. So she's counting out the bills to her, 27, she gets that. And then she's counting out the change, and she's having such a hard time with, oh, she said, just keep the change, you know, it's okay. So all this is very funny because Ellen is funny. And then she said, but you know what bothers me the most? Is that when you come home from work, you can't even watch me on television because your set is broken. Well, that's not acceptable. So she beckons a man to come out, and he brings her a 50-inch television set. And the woman is like, oh my goodness, this is just unreal. But that's not all. Ellen says to another guy, bring my checkbook. And so this checkbook is just huge, kind of like my sign, you know. And it's made out to Sarah Hoydall for $10,000. And right there on the program, Ellen signs it. And of course, I'm sitting there next to Dell and crying. And thinking, that woman who wrote that note to those combat soldiers, she never expected anything in return. And we don't when we do kind things. But sometimes it just happens. So whether it happens or not, march forth and do kind things for people. Well, we have one little finger left. And that is this little finger that reminds us to appreciate all the little things in life. And there are so many. There are so many. Hugs and smiles and all the things that we receive here. And last Sunday, when the children were leaving the platform, one of those sweet little girls handed me a note. And it was a goodbye note. And she said, I hope when you leave that you will have fun. Yes, I will. I'm having fun now, and I will continue to have fun. But how neat it is to think that we can appreciate every little thing that happens. A stranger. I had smiles from 3 strangers this week. I don't know why, but you smile back, it makes you feel good. You've made a connection with somebody that you don't even know. So I invite you just to think of all the little things that you can appreciate. I read about someone who said to her family, when I pass from this earth, on my tombstone I want only my name and the dates, and then I want the quote, thank you for everything. I want to be remembered as a person who is grateful for life and everything in it. So I'm going to leave you today with the idea that now we really know how to make enthusiastic stew. Use our 5 fingers. So let's see if we know what they are. Thumbs up, that's the way we start the day. Point your way down the day with your intention. Flip fear in the face. March forth and do kind things and appreciate the little things in life. And there's one more thing I need to leave you with. And that is a quote by Charles Fillmore. At age 94, this was what he said. I fairly sizzle with zeal and enthusiasm and spring forth with a mighty faith to do the things that must be done by me. So I invite you to take that affirmation as your own and know that you can do the same. No matter how old or young you are, it doesn't matter. And then for you, because now this is your community, that you take that affirmation and you learn again and again how to keep making enthusiastic stew. And when you build this place, because it is yours, You put the very best you can into it. All your love, your peace, your enthusiasm.